Hey guys, this is Natalie with Treasures of Mini, and this is the absolutely adorable card we're going to make today using the July 2017 Simon Says Stamp card kit. This is the stamp set that comes in the card kit, and we're going to use almost everything from the card kit to make this. I did have to add a couple of extra little things, but not too much. You can see it's going to be kind of like this little polaroid. That's the shaker, and we're going to use some Distress Oxide inks to make this beautiful little card. So you can see right here as well, let's just go right here. This is a side folding A2 size card, but I cut a 1/4 inch off of the front. This is a piece of pattern paper that came with the kit that's cut at 5.5 by 3 1/8. I am going to take some faded blue jean Distress Oxide inks, and I'm going to stamp the clouds that came in the stamp set onto this piece of paper. There are 2 different clouds in here, and I do stamp both clouds. The very last cloud that you see me stamp, I actually kind of wish I wouldn't have stamped it. It was a little too low for my horizon, but I made it work. So if you happen to follow along with me on this, I would just do the 4 clouds, not 5 clouds. But anyway, so you'll see that this piece of pattern paper is different from the card that I just showed you. And that's because I had already ran out of that other that came with the kit. So I chose this blue striped one. And I think it came out pretty good. I was a little worried about it at first, but I think it works. So this cloud is the one that I kind of wish I wouldn't have stamped. So again, if you're following along with me, I wouldn't do this one. It was just a little too low. Okay, now we're going to take a We Are Memory Keepers embossing folder, and I'm going to put a little piece of washi tape on the back of my piece. I was actually thinking ahead for once. Just in case I needed to do this process twice, I wanted it to line up perfectly. Now this is a fossilized amber oxide ink, and with a very light touch, I'm going to lightly brush it over the sun rays. If you push down, the ink will go into the entire embossed area. So I only ended up doing this once, so I didn't really need to tape it down, but just in case. I'm not going to run this through my Big Shot. I'm going to use a brayer and just kind of run one edge of that brayer over each of the grooves to where it's still embossed, but it's a light emboss, and there's enough ink transfer that now I can watercolor in the rest of the sun rays. So with a water brush and the fossilized ink, I'm going to go in and fill it the rest of the way in. Now, my brush does not have much water on it at all. The more water you have on it, the lighter the color will be, and your paper will buckle because this isn't watercolor paper. So while I'm going to set that aside, and then on a piece of acetate using some Stays on ink, I'm going to stamp the word Time to Relax. And I'm using my Misty because I actually want to stamp that twice. And here's what that looks like, stamped out twice, so it's a nice dark image. And this did not come with the stamp set. This is a sizzix die to look like a Polaroid, and it actually die cuts this word out, and I didn't want that, so I left the letters in there and just put a piece of washi tape on the back so it would hold them in place. We're going to put a piece of cardstock over that later, and I didn't want it to press in where the word was at. So with some double-sided sticky tape, I have put it around the edges, running it over with my bone folder and cutting off a little bit of the excess. My double-sided tape was thicker than the edges of the Polaroid. Then I'm going to line up this piece. And when I know that I've got it good and lined up, I'm going to flip it over and make sure it's straight, and then I'm going to push it down to adhere it. Now I'm going to set that piece aside, and I am going to glue down the remaining 4. This is the way I like to make shaker elements. It's the only way that I can do it that's easy for me. That's where I just die cut that image several times and build it up. I'm going to glue that stack of 4 to the acetate one. So now I have a stack of 5, and I'm going to put a block on it and set it aside and let it dry. Now we're going to finish up the rest of the scene. And I took some Nina Desert Storm cardstock, and I'm just ripping it, pulling it towards me to make it look like a sand dune, I guess. And I'm also going to cut it down and make sure that it matches my scene here. And I'm decided that I'm going to have some water showing through on one side. So this image is in the stamp set. And I'm going to stamp it twice with some broken china. And then with faded blue jeans, I'm going to go in and just kind of blend in some faded blue jean just on the side where it's going to show. So you can see when we put the sand piece there, you'll be able to see it. Now with some vintage photo and walnut stain, I'm just going to kind of distress this very randomly, plopping down color all over it. And then when I get both of those on it, I'm going to rub it with my finger just to kind of smear it around. Then I'm going to take some Tombow and I'm going to glue it down to our card panel where we're building this little scene up. And it's starting to come together now, and I'm just really happy with this. So I like to lay things down on my card base to decide how I'm going to do them. And this is also a piece of paper that came in the kit, and I just fussy cut around the Ferris wheels to kind of get this edge. And so when we put it together, it's all going to kind of set something like this on the card. But I want to take some worn lipstick and go around the edge of this Polaroid. I chose the warm lipstick because I felt like that pink card base that I used was just very overpowering, and I needed to bring it into the rest of the card. That pink cardstock did come in the Simon Says card kit this month as well. And I'm just going to kind of distress around the Polaroid with the worn lipstick. And this is also a piece of the designer paper that came in the card kit. And I have chosen this to back our little Polaroid. So I'm just kind of measuring it out here, and then I'm going to cut it out, and it's going to fit on the back of the Polaroid like this. But I want to fill it up with some pretty stuff. So these sequins actually came in the kit. These are little like micro beads that I already own, and I'm using the lid to a pin to kind of pick them up and fill up the area. Now, I used all flat things in this because I did not build the Polaroids up too thick. If you want to use bigger, thicker little beads and stuff in there, just glue more together. So I'm going to glue the back onto there and set it aside and let it dry. Once it's dry, this is what we have, and I think it's really pretty. So let's go ahead and start assembling our card. I'm going to go ahead and glue down the Ferris wheel edge with some Tombow. You guys know I always like to use liquid glue so that I can move things around a little bit. And then I'm going to glue our scene down. And this is where the Polaroid's going to sit, but I'm not going to glue it down until the very last. The stamp set came with 3 different size little birds, and I'm going to randomly stamp all 3. I'm stamping them with stays on only because that's what I have out. You can use anything to stamp this with. You do, however, need to use the stays on to stamp on acetate. So here's where I wanted to cover that word up. I just took the same pink cardstock, just eyeballed a little square and covered it up. Now the palm trees came from this stamp set from Paper Smooches. I did a card last week and I had some extras, and I remembered that I had them. Anytime I have an extra piece from a stamp set, I store it behind the stamp set like you saw me take the palm trees out of. So I just grabbed those out, I stuck them on the Polaroid, and then the card kit came with a bikini die, and I chose 2 pattern pieces of the paper that came with the kit, and I cut out my bikini and I glued them straight down with Tombow. And as you can see, I went over my sun rays with Wink of Stella to make them nice and sparkly. And this is a clear glaze pen, jelly roll glaze pen, and I went over all the birds just to give them a little shine. Now I went ahead and glued down our little shaker piece, and I'm going to set it aside and let it dry. As you saw on the other one, on the inside of the card, I just stamped that wavy line, but on this side, I actually cut a piece of the pattern paper and I glued it to the inside just so it would show a little bit of the edge of the card. And I think that yellow just kind of gave it a different pop, again, to kind of tone down that bright pink a little bit. With some glossy accents, I'm going to go over all the palm trees and the top and the bottom of the bikini. And with a white gel pen, I'm going to add some waves into my little ocean here. And you can also see that with my gel pen, I wrote the word summer on the underside of the Polaroid. I decided to add a little sparkle to my sand, so I'm just randomly dotting in some of the Wink of Stella. Now, something exciting to add about this is this card was actually made in my craft room. I'm very excited. I was actually able to sit in my craft room today and make a card. It did kind of bother my hip from sitting so long at the craft table, but I did it. So, here's some close-ups of both of the cards, and I hope you guys really enjoy this. I have 2 more cards that I've already thought up using this card kit. I pretty much think I'm going to be able to post the other one on Wednesday as well. So please give me a thumbs up and hit subscribe and click on the little bell so that you will be notified every time I add a video. And please leave your comments because I love reading them. You can also find me on Facebook at Treasures of Mini Craft Corner, where I would love for you to leave me pictures of your cards that you make. I also do have a Pinterest. It's under my name, Natalie Miss You, but I have a board called Treasures of Mini. And I think I'm going to start an Instagram. Hopefully I'll be able to keep up with that. My daughter has convinced me to do that. And I do have a blog, treasuresofmini.blogspot.com, but I haven't been very good at keeping up with that. But I'm going to start trying. Until next time, hugs and loves from my craft room to yours.